What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the next layer, where we dig deep with athletes, adventurers, and community builders pushing limits in every sense. I'm your host, Anthony Dragassis, co-founder of ELOS Thermal, a thermal gear company looking to reinvent the wheel. And today's guest is Mel Maningat. We have a really special one today. She's a snowboarder, surfer, skater, and her story starts with falling down on a snowboard and somehow ends up with her leading one of the most inclusive movements in board sports. And so we're super excited to dive into all of it today, talking about, building impactful communities, finding your people, and everything in between. Mel, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, Anthony. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I know we have a lot to cover today. Really awesome story. We will literally jump right in, folks. Kind of as we always like to do on the next layer, we always start from just like all the way in the back, all the way where this thing started. So obviously your story of the past few years now, a good part of your last few years has been all around board sports. So walk us through kind of how you got into this realm. I know it started in the winter time, which is what we like to talk about a lot at ELOS anyway. So this will be a good start.
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough at the time, I was with a partner who was a very outdoorsy person. I was not at all at the time. And so I was getting a lot of exposure in that realm. And this person was a surfer. That was their background. And my birthday happened to be in January. And so one year, my friends and his friend group were like, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" I said, "I have no idea." And they just kind of helped me plan a impromptu trip to Big Bear, which I had no idea was 4 hours away from Santa Barbara County. So I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds kind of fun." I think it ended up being more of a boys trip in the background, but the girlfriends all came, and honestly, that trip really set the tone for the rest of my snowboarding path because I went on hill, and I was actually on the bunny hill. I didn't even pay for a lift ticket the first time, and I did not do anything except for slide on my butt most
Mm.
of the way down. And for some reason, like, I love a challenge, and from that moment on, I was like determined. I said, "I want to get really good at this. I don't know how or when or like why I want to do this, but I want to get really good at this." And so that's kind of where I guess my snowboarding journey it all started. And that was, yeah, I want to say like 8 years ago.
That's crazy to reflect. I can't even imagine. So my I guess I started with skiing, but I'm interested in snowboarding too. But I went through that entire falling on my butt the entire day process this year. So I can't even imagine what I'm going to be like in 8 years. I mean, I don't know about you, but something about the mountains really just, even when, you're falling and, and you're frustrated or whatever, just something about clarity and everything that comes with being on a mountain. So I don't know if there's like a moment that you can look back on and say like when it really clicked for you. And I don't know if it was more of just like that personal desire to like be better at it, or if it was something about being in nature. Can you speak a little bit about what that appeal truly was for you in snowboarding?
Yeah, that's a very special question. I think that maybe most of us who have got to experience what it's like to be in the mountains can all relate. But there's something about being present in the moment and just being so stoked on whatever that moment provides you. Whether you're sliding on your butt or whether you're hitting a jump, you just get to be in this moment where you're connected with nature and like being on snow. And it's such a special feeling to honestly get to experience because not everyone in the world gets to experience that. So, yeah, it is a privilege and I love it so much.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely different, and if you haven't been out there, truly would encourage you to do it just to get that feeling of just release and being on the top of a mountain. I mean, I think that's a one of one experience for sure. And so, yeah, that's awesome. And obviously, you've loved it so much over the last 8 years that this has essentially become your life, which is pretty cool. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about obviously you're a co-founder of Part Time Babe Club, and so obviously there's got to
Actually,
be
the founder.
you are the sole founder.
I am the founder. I actually
You
do
are
have
the
a
sole founder.
co-founder. Yes,
Okay,
I
okay.
am the founder.
The founder. I will adjust. Sorry, Mel is the founder of Part Time Babe
No
Club.
worries.
But but yeah. So speak a little bit about that origin story because I know that didn't obviously come overnight as well. So speak a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think I definitely had a 9 to 5 job at the time. I mean, I did until last year, and I all I could think about at my 9 to 5 job was the next weekend that I'd be going to the mountains, and I'd already be planning my next trip, and I'd already be budgeting how much that would cost. I'd be sending group texts to all my friends and say, like, I'd be rallying people, let's
Right.
go, to just make it happen. At one point, I think maybe, and it would only be like maybe 4 or 5 times I would go in a season. And at one point, I was like, damn, this isn't making a lot of sense. With the cost of gas, I was like,
Right.
there's got to be a better way of doing this. And the dreamer in me was like, well, it would make sense just to live near the mountains. And so I had dabbled on that idea for quite a while, and it wasn't until I believe like maybe fate happened where I actually ran into a scare of a health issue. And in that time where I had to get tests done and stuff like that, I just kept thinking to myself, like, if there was no tomorrow, or like if things were to change in my life, really, what would I want to be doing right now in this moment? And the only answer at that time I could think of is I want to live in the mountains, and I want to snowboard every single day. And that was plain and simple. And after that moment I had spoke on it, I had just started getting on my computer, started applying to jobs at Mammoth Mountain. At this time, I also had a career with the government, so I was just ready and willing to do whatever it took. And next thing I know, all that hard work the next week paid off. I started getting called back for an interview. I started getting messages back about housing, and I've been to Mammoth a couple times. Backtrack a little bit. I went to Bear, where I learned how to snowboard, and then eventually I started going to Mammoth because I heard it was just the best of the best
Right.
in the States. And as soon as I had witnessed what Mammoth was like, I was like, this is where I gotta live. Yeah. Fast forward, I get the test results back. I'm healthy. I'm relieved, and now I have all this like fuel behind the flame to just keep it going. And it wasn't easy. It took me about a year after that moment had happened to keep pushing because a lot of obstacles kept happening. But I'm glad it worked out the way it did, because I ended up being able to stay with my career in the government and just transfer out to Mammoth. So I worked for the Bureau of Land Management when I moved over there. And yeah, I was blessed with a amazing opportunity to live with a really great group in Crowley, which is a town right below Mammoth. Honestly, everything aligns the way it was meant to be. But this is my like message to people: if they are ever considering doing anything, why not? Like, what do you have to lose? I mean, even if you do have something that's already stable here on the side, you could put all this extra time that maybe we're putting towards like scrolling on our phone on at night
Right.
on Instagram towards like a dream that we could actually make happen.
Yeah, that's super inspiring. Thank you for sharing that because, obviously as a fellow entrepreneur as well, really a lot of the time it's about taking that first step. And to you speaking to your story a little bit, you never know when that jolt or like that push is really going to come. And it's always interesting to hear everyone's story because usually it comes at times of, monotony, but also it could be times of, big change or, expected change. And I think for your case, that's kind of what it was. I guess the universe speaks in different ways to different people, which is super awesome. And so obviously taking that first step is a big thing, but even taking the first step, there's a lot of work from there. So speak a little bit about to like what those early meetups looked like and then how it grew into, what it is today, which is pretty awesome.
Okay, yeah. So I guess essentially I'll kind of backtrack to kind of what sparked the whole thing in general. And when I had moved to Mammoth, I actually, again, highs and lows in life. They all happen for reasons. I was at a high when I first moved there, and then my life kind of just started to plateau because of certain situations I was in. And I didn't know a lot of people. I actually didn't know anyone when I moved to Mammoth. So I was just there solely for myself to get to know myself. And in that process, I was able to be very vulnerable and open to just whatever, was provided to me. One day I was like, it was actually during my work break, my lunch break. I took a chairlift above the chair six to go to the Algona lap park. And I see a couple girls hiking this tube with my friend who's a filmer. And he's filming the girls. And I've never seen him film girls in the park before, let alone seeing girls hike. I was like, what's going on here? And it's a midday, so it's pretty empty on hill. And I'm thinking, wow, that looks so fun. I don't know what it is they're doing, but I want to join in. So I roll up to them. Luckily, I did know one of the girls in that group, and I introduced myself to the other girls in that group, and they were so welcoming and honestly such amazing hype girls that session, they were like, "What are you working on?" I was like, "I don't know. Never gone sideways on a tube before. Let's learn what it's like." And this girl, Savannah, never forget, she really gave me a lot of tips and was so welcoming and like hyped me up to do my first sports life ever. And from then on out, been like best friends with Savannah. Savannah is actually the co-founder.
Hmm.
So she really carries on that vision and that mission from day one of like what we believe in. And from there on out, like you know, us, we call ourselves mountain bums. We're not really bums, but I think what that means is like a lot of the times some will like kind of be in the mountains for half the year and then be somewhere else for the other half. A lot of these friends I made in the winter time, they would go and do their summer jobs or travel. And so I
Right.
stuck around in Mammoth and I was still kind of like excited about that first moment where I really made all these friends and I kind of wanted to keep it going. And so I held my first like skate meetup gathering at the Vulcan Brothers Skate Park, which is a really cool DIY in Mammoth. If you guys ever go to Mammoth, have to check that place out. It is one of a kind. And why I love that place so much is when I first moved to Mammoth, I moved there in the summer, so not in the winter. I kind of had to get myself ready.
Hmm.
And when I didn't know anybody, that place was my second home. I went every single day. I didn't even skateboard. I was on a carver board, a surf skate, like because that's all you had at the time. And I felt pretty kooky, but people really welcomed me in. And then eventually, I started to feel like family, and I started to feel like I had a community in a way of me doing these like meetups, which was so scary. Putting the first flyer out was so scary. And if it wasn't for one of my best friends at the time, kind of just surprising me and making a flyer and saying, now you have to do it.
Hmm.
That first step of like putting yourself out there. Then years
Right.
later, this would not happen. But yeah, I'm really grateful that just Mammoth has allowed me to become the person that I am and has really showed me what a community is like a
Yeah.
community that you can feel like you thrive the most in.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's super interesting because I mean, the funny thing is everything that you're doing with Part Time Babe Club is about community, but it required you to start without the community to see what it was like without it, and then to create one, which is super amazing. And this is one of the coolest communities in board sports, in my opinion. And one
Thanks.
of the things that I'm very curious about is like, what is it about board sports specifically that create this community, these such strong bonds specifically for, what you're trying to build? Just because I relate myself to like, I grew up playing, team sports, right? And a lot of what you're doing with team sports is rallying around games, wins, losses, right? And you're rallying around the community that's inevitably created within a team. So talk a little bit about winter sports, board sports, and why that allows you to build such strong bonds.
Well, honestly, I feel like everything I'm doing in my life and this translates into part-time babe club is solely like all of the inner things that I am learning about myself. And so with the board sports, I feel like what makes it different, it's not a team sport, although it can feel like one. It
Right.
can make it feel
Right.
like one, but it's more like tapping into yourself, who you are, and that the more connected you are with yourself, the more it translates into these board sports that you do. You can see it in the way you ride. It's your style,
Right.
it's your personality. It's everything that you bring to that like environment that you put it in. And again, it's like such a privilege to be in a space of like amazing waves or pow day or even like a beautiful DIY skate park that the community puts together to build. That's why I like it's my life now. I don't know if I
Yeah.
do without it. And I feel that when we're creating these spaces for people to tap into, it's not just about the camaraderie. It's about being in a space where we're helping others feel like they can be the best versions of themselves or even tap in more into like being comfortable with who they are and allowing them to come as they are and express that fully in these board sports. I mean, it's almost like being a creative it's like it is kind of being a creative person or having that creative space as well because it's what you make it. There's things that try to define these sports like competitions and stuff, but that's a whole other story.
Right, right.
But yeah, that's kind of where I come from and why I love these things and why I want to share that with other people.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think, I mean, at the end of the day, that's, it's very similar to, I guess, what a lot of us have felt, growing up in team sports, having a lot of what it is obviously the camaraderie, the wins, losses, but also it's like the differing backgrounds that come together for one goal, right? Like stuff like that. And that's the really special part about a community. And especially the one, that you're trying to build. I know, in our prep call, what's really important to you is the representation and responsibility that you feel because of that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up because I feel like this doesn't get talked about too often, and I, I don't think it's interesting because I feel like I haven't really even thought about it myself until just recently. I've been really lucky enough and fortunate enough to be invited to events, especially like in snowboarding a community where they highlight different pockets of the community, people of color and or like LGBT community, things like that. And
Hmm.
I think it's really important to, again, if we're talking about embracing who we are, something that I think is really special is, yeah, being Filipino. I don't really meet a lot of other Filipinos that get the privilege to be able to do a sport that costs a lot of money. I think snowboarding out of all the sports I do, yeah, just every year taking at least $1,000 of mine just for
Right,
that.
right. It's
But
crazy.
that's kind of what we have to do. And yeah, I went to doing these board sports. It really pushes you, or it just entices you to want to travel to get to experience these board sports and entries. And I love that because it gives me a perspective of just how life is and how life can be simple in other places. And so I went home to the Philippines about 2 years ago, and man, they have the most amazing waves ever, and some of the like happiest and friendliest people. And I had a thought. I think a friend mentioned it to me, and it was a thought I'd never thought about. But it was like I'm so lucky to be able to experience what snow feels like because maybe most of my relatives may never get to visit a country and be able to afford a pass or like where do they start? It's just like so many steps of the process that yeah, we have the privilege of being able to access here. And so in that, like I feel that it is important for me to represent yeah, who I am, where I come from, how proud I am of those things as well. Like my mom, working hard to get to, allow me to have this amazing like life that I'm living here. I get to be in California, and California is like crazy. You can drive 6 hours to go snowboarding, skateboard in the same day, and then drive another 6 hours or 4 hours to go surf the same
Crazy.
day. It is crazy. So yeah, I think the more that we can talk about these things and yeah, just express our gratitude and how proud we are to be who we are is important in the space that we take up.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. And I think a lot of what you're saying there is kind of remembering the blessings in life. I think that's super important. We've talked a little bit about today the different channels, opportunities that life provides, and when you might not even expect them to come, they come. And a lot of that comes with change sometimes is neglecting as we talked about nature being so beautiful, right? Having the ability to do some of these things that may be inaccessible to certain folks, and reminding yourself of those blessings is really important. And so thank you for sharing, and that's awesome. And we love everything that you're doing with Part Time Babe Club, and it seems like, obviously, as we talked about, community first, extremely inclusive, and those two things are amazing. So yeah, moving a little bit past, and obviously linking it back to everything. What's fueling you right now? Because I feel like you've been going through a lot of change over the last couple years or so, and so what's fueling you right now, and what's keeping you motivated to professionally or personally or anything like that?
Yeah, man. My personality, if you get to know me, I'm always go, go, go. There's always something fueling me. And it's like so exciting. I always am like, am I ever going to stop?
Right, right.
I feel like the answer is no. And that's not a bad thing. Currently, right now, I just kickstarted registering this business earlier this year. So
Boom.
it's been a thing for a while, but it wasn't until recently I truly started taking it seriously with my team and really believing in it and seeing like, okay, the more we believe in this, the more we can make big things happen, especially within our own personal lives. Because I recently last year quit my career. So I was
Hmm.
with the government for 13 years, very
Wow.
stable and amazing run, but I felt like I was living two different lives. So I was like, I know that I can always go back to this, but I don't know what will happen if I don't put in 100% or on my all into something that I really love. And I'm only getting, we're only losing time. So
Right. Right.
I'm like, I'm just gonna, you know what, just try it out, just feel it out. And so yeah, that's been my journey right now is I'm officially 1 year later, self-employed, and it's been, man, so amazing. I don't regret any of it. Obviously, there's like so much to learn being an entrepreneur and running your own business, but in the end, it's so worth it. And yeah, I think that really like moving in the direction of how can I be as like more as free flowing and kind of in control of my own reality. Like I feel like I'm finally stepping into that and I'm looking forward to elevating like how I can give back. So obviously it's been amazing to be able to give back to the community. So
Hmm.
last year I was actually asked by a family if I could come and coach their daughter in Salt Lake, and she's an athlete. And so, I was nervous because I was like, I've never coached anyone before. I have never even myself taken any lessons in my life. So I'm just thinking like, am I qualified to do this? Can I do this? And I said, you know what? What an honor that this family like sees potential in me and they want me to be a coach for their daughter because they believe that I have something to offer her in terms of mentorship and honestly it was more like they're like she's been on team. She kind of knows the whole spiel. It's more just like I think her love for snowboarding has fallen out a little bit. It's not
Hmm.
as fun to her anymore. And as soon as they said that, the word fun, I said, say less. Like my middle name. And so that was last season. That was a good trial run for me. And so this year I'm going back to Salt Lake to coach her. Her name is Lily. Shout out Lily.
Awesome.
But so yeah, I've just been really pushing like how can I keep elevating this dream of mine? And I think it just keeps going with like the more you believe in yourself, the more you can keep pushing things. So that's what I'm excited for. And there's a potential to possibly work with a snowboard company this year for me, which is huge. I've worked with a couple of snowboard companies in the past, but again, I think this one is going to feel a lot different. So I'm excited to hopefully release some news about that soon.
Wow.
Just can't believe, yeah, I just can't believe like 8 years ago I was, falling to my butt, and here I am now. Like, built a community and giving my mentorship back to somebody I really care about, and now a brand wants me to ride for them, and I'm just like blown away.
Yeah, full circle for sure. That's awesome. Congratulations, and we'll definitely obviously link all of Mel's social so you can follow her journey, and hopefully that announcement comes soon. But that actually was my next question. Is there any big initiatives, especially we're only a couple months away from snow, which is exciting? Any big initiatives you're pushing at Part Time Babe Club or anything like that that you would like to shout out, other than potential collab?
Yeah, so part-time Babe Club is growing, and it's honestly so exciting to like see. At first, a little background: when I lived in Mammoth, most of the team most of my team also lived in Mammoth. Somehow, I 1 year I was able to like convince a lot of my girlfriends to move to Mammoth, and so it
Hmm.
was honestly the best times of my life. Hopefully, there's too, where we just were able to just I don't know run things so smoothly, and now I feel like really proud to look back and see that like my friends are also elevating in their lives and moving around to different areas. Like I have a friend moves to Tahoe. I moved to Salt Lake, and I was a little nervous that that would change the dynamics in Part Time Babe Club, but all that did was truly strengthen even more like our mission, and to the point where we're like, well, let's do chapters. Like let's expand and let's see if we're able to keep continuing this. And so yeah, last year we did a little test run. I started a chapter out in Salt Lake, and this year we're also going to be doing some. So I guess I should backtrack. So we'll be in the winter having some meetups and events in Mammoth, hopefully
Awesome.
some in Tahoe, and then for sure I'll be running a chapter in Salt Lake. We're going to be doing all kinds of things year round. We've kind of already started planning out the rest of the season, which is kind of crazy because I feel like we're usually 3 months out planning things, but now we're like 6 months to a whole year. And even following after that, we have retreats planned for the summer months in
Mm-hmm.
2026. So we're kind of just dabbling in all the spaces we can and trying to make the space as fun as possible for our team and for our community as well, and in ways that they they want to show up.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Well, again, we'll be sure to link everything related to Part Time Babe Club and Mel so you can follow along and yeah, no, it's super awesome. Thanks for letting our audience know, and yeah, that's super cool. So I think we're coming up close on time here. So what we will do, I think we have some time for some quick rapid fire questions here just to keep you on your toes a little bit, and then we'll round this thing out. But no, actually, that was funny because one of my questions was, I guess we'll make the stipulation that it can't be planned already. A dream location for a future part-time Babe Club retreat.
A dream location,
Yeah.
the Philippines.
Yeah. It's a
And let
good
me
one.
tell you, I think that's definitely 100% going to happen.
For sure. For sure. Especially after you were talking about those surf breaks, right?
Yeah, so I think October. October is our goal month here, but it's already
Cool.
in the works.
Awesome. Awesome. Now you were talking about a board slide, but curious, is there a first trick or anything that you learned on the snowboard that took so long that was super rewarding or anything like that?
Honestly, I'm not going to lie, it was a board slide.
Was it really?
Yeah, all my friends who knew me knew that all I ever did was 50/50s. Frontside
Mm-hmm.
50/50s. That's all I would ever do. Because honestly, I was too afraid to slide sideways, and it was kind of bad. At one point that's when that was all I did. Well, okay, it wasn't bad because eventually I didn't taco anymore. So I don't know if you know what tacoing is, but this is a rail, and if you catch wrong, you just fold yourself over the rail. So I actually became a pro at not tacoing, which is a skill to have.
For sure.
I remember one day my friend called me out and they're like, all you do is 50/50. And I was like, yeah, let me see you 50/50 this down round. And, it's terrifying for some people. People are like, I'd rather board slide because you just have so much surface area. If it
Yeah.
wasn't for that one comment, then I wouldn't have drilled a whole season of board slides. I think it wasn't until like maybe a season or two ago I actually started to finally do like board slides. And then that led into like all the different, I think I was like more committed to a backflip than I was a board slide.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'll set the stage here for this last one here. So Saturday, OG Mammoth Mountain, middle of January, you're going to the mountain for just a day on the slopes. What is essential for you to have in your gear bag? What will you never catch Mel without in your gear bag?
Ooh, okay. This one's hard, but water, because I always sometimes just I'll bring the water and then I won't drink it. Like as long as I have it, then I'm like, okay, you gotta take a break and drink water. It's the worst because as snowboarders, you just want to hot lap and never take a break, but then you feel like poop at the end of your session, so you need to hydrate. So water for sure. And then I love my salty packets. They're electrolyte and they're flavored. They have a lot of magnesium in them and salt, and honestly, just keeps me more hydrated because like I said, I don't drink enough water. Sunscreen. I have been not putting enough sunscreen on the last couple of years, and my friends have been drilling me on that. So, for sure, sunscreen, AirPods, so bad because I lose my AirPods, I think, at least once a season. I want to move over back to the headphones, but the wires just like bother the heck out of me. And then chapstick. That's always in my pocket. And part-time Babe Club stickers. Those are always, always in my pocket. I just love. Sometimes I'll like go somewhere and I'll be in my snowboard gear and I'll see there's a whole wall of just stickers, and I'm like, oh, yep, a part-time Babe Club sticker deserves to live over there.
Uh-huh.
So not much. Just those are if I can remember, then a power bar, but sometimes I forget that too.
I love it. I love it. You're the plug for hydration and longevity with sunscreen and chapstick. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. That's funny. Well, awesome, Mel. So again, thank you so much for joining today. Obviously, your stories is super empowering, and here at ELOS in the Next Layer, we'll do our best to promote and cross promote. So as always, massive thanks, Mel, for joining and telling your story. Make sure to go check out Part Time Babe Club on all socials. We'll make sure to link that and Mel's socials in the description of this podcast. Give her a follow. And if you love this episode, share it with a friend. Tag us at ELOS Thermal. Until next time, stay warm, stay gritty, and keep chasing your next layer. Thanks, everyone.
Love that.